Okay, I just wanted to let you know a few things about how the course is going to work. You're not going to use D2L much at all. I don't know a whole lot about how to use D2L, and I do not intend to find out because I think there's better stuff out there. This is a Google platform, and Halton has a Google Cloud, so we might as well use it. So the D2L, my intention at this point anyways, is to use it as a bulletin board. So you'll look at your screen and always just read the news. And the news will say things like a new doc has been shared with you, or this week's work has been posted in the course doc, or don't forget about the assignment due on Monday, whatever that might be. Reminders, things like that. If there's a problem, a link doesn't work in an assignment, someone points that out to me, I fix it, I might post there, okay, I fixed the link in part 2 of that evaluation. So that's the only thing D2L will be used for. But D2L, the reason I'm going to put that stuff there is that the board wants us to be having you go through D2L regularly for attendance purposes. So this should force you all to go there regularly. So D2L should be one of your bookmarks and you should be checking there frequently. Okay. Where to start? You're not going to get a lot of actual direct information from me. I'm not going to provide you with a whole lot of content in terms of notes or PowerPoint type stuff. Instead, you're going to either use resources I provide or be asked to find resources in order to ask questions, gather information, or answer questions, gather information, and maybe even ask more questions, and then reflect on what you've learned and what it means in the context of the units of the course. That's going to happen in 3 different ways. They're going to be learning activities, they're going to be assessments, and they're going to be evaluations throughout the course. A learning activity is something that you will need to do. And it may not be something that I'm going to give you feedback on. And in fact, some of those I don't necessarily need to see. So they may not even be shared with you. Your instruction may be to open this template, make a copy, and do it. Okay? I haven't given you the instruction to share it back with me, so don't do that. It's kind of like in a regular classroom if someone gives you a handout or asks you to sit and do something, but they're not going to take it in and mark it on a daily basis, right? However, the evaluations, the things that are marked, where your mark is going to come from, will relate back to and use information that you have gathered in those learning activities. So you need to do them. Even though they are not being marked at the time, you need to do them. It's just like years ago when kids copied notes. Maybe some of you still have to do this in your classrooms. Copy notes from the overhead. And every once in a while, someone would say, is this being marked? No, I'm not marking your note, but the content of this note would show up on the unit test in 2 weeks. So do you need to take the note and look at it and read it and understand it? Yes. Are you going to get 5 marks today for that? No, but you're going to get marks down the road for it. So the same logic applies here. And I've structured the course on purpose to do that. So that's a learning activity. An assessment is something that will be a smaller version or a little bit different version of what the evaluation or the marked item is going to look like in that course. So it may use the same thinking or communication skills. It may use the same technology. It may have you looking at the same article, whatever it may be. And I will assess that. What that means is I will make comments on it. You'll get feedback on it. I'll let you know how you did. It's not going to be marks, but it will be information about whether your answers were thorough enough, whether they made sense or not. Did you make the connections that you needed to make between a couple of concepts? Were the sources that you found good enough to be used in an academic setting? All those kinds of things. Then you'll do an evaluation. An evaluation is something that will be marked. That means that's going to count towards your mark in the course. When you're doing evaluations, again, they will relate back to and deal with information from your learning activities and possibly even the assessments. So you need to be doing all the work. Just do all the work. Just do it all and you'll be fine. When it comes to evaluations, there will be, so you'll get the evaluation. So let's say it's Monday and I post in the news, hey, guess what, everybody? Your work for this week is an evaluation and it's now shared with you. And then I will have a feedback date. And the feedback date might be Thursday at 7 p.m. You'll soon find out what time my daughter goes to bed because I will be doing some of my work in the evenings after she's asleep. So I might say feedback date on that evaluation is Thursday at 7 p.m. So Thursday at 7 p.m., I will go in and I will lock all the docs and I will give people feedback. And somewhere in my notes, I'll make a little notation of who had work done and how much and how good it was. And on my end, I might put couple little check marks, a little mark out of 5. That mark is never going to go anywhere. You're going to see where your mark is coming from in a spreadsheet. You'll see those little things are not there. You'll never see them. You'll just see the comments. Needed more here, not finished this part, whatever it might be. And maybe you're not done on the feedback deadline. Maybe you're done one part. Maybe you're started all 3 parts of an evaluation. That's fine, but it is in your best interest to have as much of it done as you can, especially if it's something you're not clear about. Get something in that doc so that I can give you some feedback. So there will be a feedback deadline. Then there will be a due date, and that will probably be on a Monday morning at 8 a.m. Because what I tended to do last time is mark at the beginning of the week. So there's no point me making something due on Friday because then I have to mark it over the weekend, and that's not how I choose to spend my weekends when I might as well do it during the day. So things will typically be due first thing in the morning on a Monday. That gives you guys the weekend to do it if you need or want to use your weekend. And that means that when I come into work on that Monday morning, I will then lock the docs and there'll be a rubric in there and you'll already know ahead of time what it's being marked out of and what the criteria is and all that kind of stuff. I had questions before about what was something out of or how am I, what is my mark on such and such? And these were things like learning activities. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't understand how you thought that was going to be marked when there was no rubric, nothing was out of anything. So I don't know what's going on in classrooms that is making some students think that they don't and that they would get marked on something if they don't see the marks ahead of time, but that's certainly not the way we're supposed to operate, and that's not the way that I operate. So one great way to know whether something is marked or not is if in the name of the doc, if it's called evaluation, it's being marked. If it has a feedback date deadline and then a due date, it's being marked. And if there's a rubric in there, or if there are little, out of 10, out of 5 throughout that document, it's being marked. So there are some clues there for you. Okay, so basically 3 types of things that you will be doing. Every once in a while, I'll give you just, I might give you something, an information piece, like a little doc or something, and then you're going to do something with it, analyze something with that information, perhaps. So it's not that there won't be any sort of notes, but most of the stuff are going to be things where you go and find information. So if that's the way you would like to learn, then certainly stick with us. If that's something you cannot tolerate, then you may need to think about whether or not this is the course for you. But I would certainly at least give it a try for the first unit and see how things go. Yeah, so those are the 3 types of things that you'll be getting.